The question with him is he's been in a Mexican prison for the last 8 months, right? Or 8 months of the last year because he had some pot in Tijuana, which, what the hell, doesn't everybody do pot in Tijuana?
Welcome to First Strike, only on VSiN, the sports betting network. Here's your hosts, Dave Ross and Rob Moreno.
And we are back, First Strike, here on VSiN. Dave Ross here with you. And joined once again by Shane Thurston from Shane Just Win Bet. Always great to have you back on the program, my man, as we get ready for UFC Belgrade. First of all, Shane, before we break down this card, and we're going to have Rob Moreno, by the way, coming up a little bit later with El Modelo, see what his plays look like as well. Where have you been on this summer of UFC? Have you enjoyed what we've seen so far as we've now gone overseas here back-to-back weeks?
Yeah, I think the cards have been pretty good lately. I think the McGregor card outside of the main event was a really good card. I think outside of the early start time, which I'm not a huge fan of, it's even worse for you, for the people out there in Vegas and stuff like that, I know. But like, I have young kids. It's hard for me to sit down and watch a fight that's starting at noon when I have a 2-year-old trying to climb up my leg at the same time. You know what I mean? So it's a little tough, right? So I'm not a huge fan of the overseas fights as much, only for that reason. It's only, strictly personal there.
We got to sacrifice some sleep a little bit, Shane, for UFC Belgrade this week as well. But it is one of those cards, again, that people like us love it because we're looking for bettable spots here that we look for in every single card. Maybe the casuals don't get it as much, but when you see a fight like Uros going up against D-Rod here in Daniel Rodriguez, we can understand why Medic now is the massive favorite. And I'm looking here, and Shane, boy, as we talk here early in the week, it's come down a little bit, but still close to a $4 betting favorite here on the Uros side. What do you make of a main event like this where some people, again, that maybe not as in the know might say, why are we getting a Medic and D-Rod main event here at UFC Belgrade?
So Medic is the hometown guy there, right? He's from Serbia. He requested the UFC to have a Serbia event,
That's
and
right.
He's headlining the first ever Serbia event. So it's a big deal for him, for sure. He's going to have the home crowd pop, right? The home crowd's going to be definitely behind him. He'll have that advantage going for him. And he's entertaining to fight to watch, man. So I think it should be an entertaining main card. He always brings constant pressure. His fights don't typically last long. I'll tell you that, right? So all 5 of his last fights have finished in the first round. He's never gone to a decision. He's only seen the second round 4 times in his career. He's only seen the third round once in his career. I mean, so it's crazy. And in the last 3 years of all of his fights combined, he's only had 6 minutes and 5 seconds of actual fight time.
He's not getting paid by the hour here, Shane. He's getting paid by the minute. Right? We're going to get out of there and get it done quickly. And I think that's why you see a total here, Shane, of sitting at 1.5, juiced heavily to the under. By the way, 7.5 minutes here, people doing that MMA math, is under $2 now, down about $1.95 here. But because of what you just gave out, these Uros Medic fights do not seem to go very long. Now, if you're D-Rod and you're looking at the American underdog here in this spot, is it one of those that maybe if he can get out of that first round, that he would, you don't want to say look to survive the first 5, but if he can intelligently defend and get to a second round, I normally don't think of it as being an advantage that way, but do you think that's the way the American underdog might be preparing for?
That's the way I see this going. I saw the second round to start at like minus 105, and I think I'm gonna bet that's gonna be my play for this fight. Is because I think D-Rod, I mean, he's got experience, man. He's been around the block for a long time. He's 39 years old now. The question with him is he's been in a Mexican prison for the last 8 months, right? Or 8 months of the last year because he had some pot in Tijuana. Which, what the hell? Doesn't everybody do pot in Tijuana? Isn't that the thing?
That's gonna get somebody jailed for 9 months. That's just crazy. Yes.
Right? So that blew my mind when I heard, like, with that going on. So that's a little concerning as well, because, like, you don't know how well his conditioning is or his, like, is what he was eating while he was in jail,
right,
in a Mexican prison and stuff like that, and how much he could work out. I doubt he was running on an elliptical or something like that there, right? So that's a little concern. But, I mean, he has the experience, and I think he can take this out of the first round. So I'm going to take that second round to start at minus 105. And if he can drag it deeper, I can honestly see him winning this fight. So I might do a sprinkle on like him to win because as a huge dog. He's won as a huge dog before. His last fight, he beat Kevin Holland, and he was a plus 475 underdog. So it's not like it's a new spot for D-Rod. I'm not going to put a lot of money on it because of the variables and the unknowns of him being in jail and stuff like that. So, but I think I'm going to put a little sprinkle on it. A little sprinkle on him to win money line.
We've had some weird handicaps for certain fighters in the past, right? You can probably go to any John Jones fight and go, what's John Jones coming back from here? Some of the stuff that happens outside of the octagon to try to see where they are mentally. And I've talked about this with Rob, and I've talked about it with people here at First Strike at VSiN for the last 5 years, there are certain fighters that you do have to try to get inside the mental side and see where they are before we're betting on them. And D-Rod might be one of those because of those circumstances. But normally, if we took those factors out, do we still look at D-Rod as a declining fighter? Do you still think really he might have that upset potential, as you mentioned, because he's fought, dare we say, maybe some guys with a better resume than some of the guys that Medic has fought?
Yeah, I think if it wasn't for the Mexican jail scenario whole thing, I think Medics would still be the favorite, but I think it would be much closer because D-Rod, man, he's experienced. He's fought some of the best guys. He definitely has a better resume, and he puts on heavy pressure. He averages over 7 significant strikes per minute in the UFC, which is pretty a lot, right? And then
Yeah.
Medic, that's when he tends to struggle is when he faces heavy, constant pressure. So I could see that happening. And then another reason why I think this is going to go out of the first round is because you have 2 southpaws fighting each other, which isn't a usual common thing in the fight game, right? Sometimes that gets takes them a second to deal with that, and I'm sure they've been training on it and stuff like that. Yeah, but it's still different when the live bullets are flying.
Do you think because of their styles here, Shane, that these guys are both kind of pressure guys, especially early in fights, right? That
Right.
they're just going to meet right there dead in the center? Or do you think there could be a little bit, we've seen this sometimes neutralize itself out a little bit, and it gets off to a slower start when you're so used to at least one guy, and normally both these guys do this to their opponents, try to pressure them early. If they're both pressure guys, so I know I'm going to see you in the center, do they become a little bit more cautious and kind of see what the other guy really has instead of just kind of jutting in like two bulls in a head-on collision?
I could see them easing into it. I don't think it's going to last long, but maybe like for the first half of the first round,
Yep.
maybe it's having a little caution because they both have knockout power, right? They both have been knocked. Well, D-Rod's only been knocked out once in his UFC career, or his MMA career, so he's pretty durable, which I think is another reason why I think it might go out of the first round there. But I mean, both have knockout power, so I think I could see some of that. But I think Medic definitely wants this to end early, right? So I think he'll definitely start storming, and then can D-Rod evade it and piece him up with combinations to keep him at bay, to keep this thing going the distance and drag him into some deeper waters that he hasn't seen very often.
That's interesting. So again, your official plays, you've got the fight to start round 2 about minus $1.05, maybe a sprinkle here on the D-Rod side, which you can get close to 3-1 odds there. Would you consider laying up the total too and layering up that total to get over that 1.5, which is at solid plus money? And dare we see a third round? I mean, Shane, you can get really good money here. I don't know if we can get all 5, but would you start to think about layering this thing a little bit past round 1?
1.5 I would consider doing. I might put like a half unit on that or something like that, right? Definitely don't go to distance. I don't think this is going to distance at all. Someone's getting finished here. Somebody is, right? Even with Medic, yeah, he has a lot of knockouts. In his fights, he usually gets finished too, right? He hasn't gone to decision. So he's been submitted twice in his career and knocked out once in his career, I believe, with Medic. So it's definitely not going to distance, but I could see over 1.5 maybe. That's a possibility. I don't know about going further than that though. That's where it gets risky to me.
That might be the end of it right there. You get plus $1. You get plus $1.50 right now at 7.5 minutes. But maybe if you cash those tickets, people, let's not get maybe bite off too much more than we can chew. We don't know how much longer it'll go past that. So again, right now, people looking at D-Rod plus 295. That over sitting at 1.5 plus $1.50. And Shane's play is to start round 2 at minus $1.05. I like where your head's at there.
I think that's a pretty good number there to start second round. Minus 105. It's pretty close to even money, right? So,
yeah,
solid play.
Absolutely. And again, it might get dicey at the end, but I'm with you. I could see kind of a slower start to this fight here, and maybe you can get through a minute, 2 minutes, and stall right away. And then those fireworks might start to happen towards the end of that first round. That's where it could get dicey for the 7.5 minute total. But I like that play at minus $1.05 here to start round number 2. We've got a young kid, Navajo Sterling, who is kind of bursting on the scene here in recent years against a proven guy in Jan Blachowicz. I'm a little bit surprised with the Polish power that you can get him at plus 260. This total here for a 3-round fight is juiced heavily to the over at 2.5 rounds at minus 215. And that's where I'm kind of surprised here, Shane, because if, as the number would indicate, we're expecting this fight to go deep into the UFC Belgrade night, that punching power normally stays there with Jan. Do you think we've got a puncher's chance at an upset here?
I yes, because the main reason why is Sterling's taking this on short notice. And did you hear him in an interview lately? He said he accepted this fight after a bender in Japan.
Oh, oh,
And he even said that, like, if he leaked some of the footage of that bender, he would probably flip to be the underdog. So that's a little concerning because he fought 6 weeks ago, man. He didn't fight that long ago.
right.
So he won. So he was out celebrating. He said he went on a vacation in Japan and was partying and everything. So, and then he got the call saying, hey, we need you to fight Jan here. And he accepted it, So, I mean, to be 20, whatever he is, 27 again, right? And so,
Right.
but I can see it. But honestly, man, Jan, and like you said, and he's looked okay. He's looked good in his last couple fights, but he only has one win in his last 5 fights, and that was back in 2022 when against Rakic. But at the same time, he took Alex Pereira to a split decision,
Exactly.
right? So he took Carlos Alberg to a decision, right? It's not like he was fighting nubs, right? He was fighting some good guys there.
And that's what I'm getting at here too, Shane. Is I'm going, what am I missing? Because I can make the case. Certainly, I could make the case and did make the case. I thought he beat Pereira. I thought it was a very, very close fight, but I think you can make the case that we're talking about a Hall of Famer to be an Alex Pereira, and it was a very, very close fight, depending on which way you saw it, and that's why you got the split decision. And I think you know me well enough by now, Shane. When you give me a split decision, I'm normally not going to bitch about it. I'm going to say, well, I can understand if it's that close. 2 judges saw it one way, 1 judge saw it the other way. It's going to be hard pressed. I might have a different take in the fight as I do in that one, but I can understand why that was so tightly lined. Now, for Blachowicz to pull this upset off, what do you think is the best strategy for him? Because again, the total is saying that we're going to go into that 3rd round. The longer it goes, does that favor the dog? And if you're the younger guy who's coming off a bender, you might want to get that work done earlier rather than extending this fight longer than you want it.
I think Sterling's best chance is to try and mix in some grappling, some clinch work, stuff like that. Kind of like the same path to victory he did against Israel Adesanya, if you remember that fight.
Yep.
He beat Israel Adesanya by doing pretty much the same thing, mixing takedowns with striking,
No doubt.
right? Clinch control. Having that same type of game plan is how you're going to beat this guy. Because if you stay standing and just let Sterling just be a kickboxer on you, I think he'll win this easily.
Yeah, I agree. I think I think you should go back to the easy fight for Blachowicz. And again, we're talking about that resume, right? I mean, it's not debatable when you fought the type of guys that Blachowicz has fought and beaten as he did Israel Adesanya, and relatively easily. Once he got him down to the ground, he was just the bigger guy. Now, could he do that? Could he do that to Sterling? Hold down the younger guy and wear him out like he did Izzy that night? It might be a tougher ask to do. But so, Shane, when you do now break down this fight in totality, do you see any advantages here, and where would you want to put your dollar, if anywhere?
I think putting some money on Jan to get the upset is pretty good bet if you like him. I still think Sterling is going to win here. I like him. He's a much younger fighter. He's got 15 years younger on age. I mean,
Yep.
Jan is 43, almost 44 years old. It's just at some point, Father Time catches up to everybody, right? So
Yep.
it sucks. It happens, but it does. So I think Sterling's going to win here. I think Jan's not going to let him get knocked out or finish or anything like that. So I think I'm going to take Sterling to win by decision probably. I can't remember what odds those are sitting at currently,
Sure.
but I think that's what I'm leaning here to is put Sterling to win by decision.
And again, money line price right now in Navajo is -325. That over, if it is by decision, by the way, you could shorten that up already if you want to go with Shane there, and you could play the over at -215. So there's already $1.10 shorter just by taking the over, not even picking a winner there at 215. If you think Sterling gets it done via decision, that might be another way to attack that fight here on the co-main event. I always find this interesting. And I wanted to get your thoughts on this because sometimes you can X out certain fights that you do not like on the fight card that could be trappy out there for certain MMA handicappers. And you're looking at the Marcin Tybura against the Alexander Rakic fight as a possible stay away, Shane. What is it about this fight that says to you, I don't know that I want any part of it?
I mean, the main thing is Rakic it's his first time fighting at heavyweight. He's moving up to heavyweight. He's been light heavyweight forever. And he's fought some good guys in the light heavyweight, but he hasn't won since 2022. It's been a long time
Yep.
since his last. Oh, sorry, 2021. So it's been 5 years since his last win. It's a long time, man. And it's like he's coming off 4 straight losses. Yeah, again, one was against Yuri, one was against Jan, who we just talked about. Right. So he's fought some good guys. It's just that I mean, I just don't like it. I don't like it at all. I'm staying away totally here. I think he's favorite. He probably will win, but at that price point, what's he at like now? Minus three something.
345.
Yeah, minus 345. I just don't like it because heavyweight. To say what you will, a one punch power all it takes, right? So you could get Tybura to win here by knockout. He's got 10 knockouts in his professional career. Uh, so it looks like a stay away spot for me. I'm just not going to touch it.
Well, I'll tell you this too, to your point about that power. He was winning that fight against Yuri, and then Yuri turned his lights out in the second round, right? And he couldn't.
Yeah.
And look, Prochazka still has crazy power. We understand that. He's so unorthodox, but he was winning that fight until then. So even you can go back to the Jan Blachowicz fight. He was clearly winning that fight, took a bad step back, blew at his knee. That's why he lost that one. So we know he's got the requisite skill, but those were all at light heavyweight, to your point. So not to say that Yuri Prochazka is a very big puncher at light heavyweight. We understand that.
Yeah.
But still a heavyweight's punch with Marcin Tybura, to the point where Tybura could be losing the fight, as Rakic has been in that spot where he's winning these fights and then one punch has turned it the other way. Yeah, I don't know that I want to lay that price point here with Rakic at his first foray into the heavyweight division. I'm looking at the total very quickly, Shane. Can we expect that Rakic is going to go in there and look for the kill? Because the over right now is set at a round and a half, dead smack in the middle. It is juiced heavily to the over at 220. But is there any lean either way there? Because I really don't know what Rakic is going to look like at heavyweight.
Yeah, I don't either. And it's always, I mean, just look at Alex Pereira when he moved to heavyweight. Yeah, he's facing Gon, and Gon's like, incredible. He's a really good fighter, right? But it's weird when someone moves up a weight class. Yeah, they don't have to cut weight, right? So that'd be helpful to him. He'll still have the power for sure. But is that speed still going to be there? That weight where you usually get down to when you're cutting, 20, 30 pounds, right?
Yep.
So is that going to be something? I think he could still win this fight. He could win by knockout. But yeah, over under, I'm not sure. I don't know what round this thing would go to.
Yeah, that would be something that I will be staying away from as well with you, Shane, saying I need to see what he looks like at this weight class, maybe a live betting spot here. But right now,
live betting might happen.
Yeah, a lot
beforehand,
more questions than we have answers right now when it comes to Rakic at heavyweight. You do have a fight that I wanted to break down. Vlasto Seppo is a big-time favorite against Gilbert Urbina. Urbina right now is plus 245. Vlasto is minus 345. Total sitting at 1.5. Juiced heavily to the under, minus 345. So again, might be very surprised if this gets out of the first round.
Yeah, I think this is a gimme. I think the UFC is trying to pop that Serbian crowd, right? Seppo is the hometown guy. He's from Serbia.
Yep.
And they're giving him a guy who has lost his last 2 fights by first round knockout, right? He's lost 4 of his last 5 fights by finish.
Ooh.
Right. So it's not looking good for him. I think this is just like a UFC ploy because it's like the first or second fight on the main card there to get that Serbian crowd popped and ready for the rest of the fights coming up, and just to get that hometown favorite to win here. I'm taking Seppo to win first round knockout. I think it's definitely going to happen.
Yeah, I think it's a good point. I talk about it a lot where venues, when I'm looking at MMA handicapping and why certain fights are being made, I think you just nailed it right in the head there, Shane. This is a fight that's being made for Seppo and the crowd at UFC Belgrade right there to get some pop. And that's why you're seeing him as such a big favorite. So we can understand why he's such a big favorite. And I don't think that deters you from backing him in front of his hometown brethren. Shane, great stuff as always, my friend. Can you tell everybody where they can access all of your fine material?
Yeah, you can catch us on X at Just Win Bets Baby, or you can catch me at Shane Just Win Bets singular because the S makes it too long. You can also catch us on YouTube. We're at around 14,500 subscribers or so on YouTube. So check us on YouTube. We do 20 different sports and leagues around the world. We got Joe DeFan covers everything soccer. I do UFC, NHL, and we both do NFL and college football. So we got a whole bunch of stuff. Come check us out. Have a lot of fun, and we'd like to see you there.
Yeah, it's great. You're a great follow. Again, Shane Just Win Bet, singular, people. No S at the end of that when you give him a follow on X. Shane, appreciate you as always, my friend. When we come back, El Modelo, Rob Moreno, what does he make about some of these selections? What does the model see? We'll break it down next right here. First Strike on VSiN.
You're tuned in to First Strike, right here on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
We are back, First Strike on VSiN. Dave Ross and Rob Moreno. El Modelo back with us this week. Rob, always great to have you on with your numbers that you have associated. Before we get to those numbers, Let's tell everybody about what we've got going on at the network. Because again, $9.99 is an intro offer right now. People that'll cover your first month. There are much better offers out there. But again, if you want to just kind of dip a toe in and figure out what we're all about, $9.99 will get you in for that very first month. But there's our other offers like $175 will cover you all the way through the Super Bowl. And like we like to say, Rob, we got a guy. You want to talk some golf, you want to talk some football, college football, NFL, you name it, not just UFC. We got you covered pillar to post, just about every single sport that you can think of.
The college football betting guide is coming out very soon. And if that's not reason enough, I mean, NFL betting guide, college football betting guide, we are football ready. And if you're not into that, I don't know what to do.
Great point, though. That's coming out next week here, that college football betting guide. Adam Burke, our managing editor, doing a great job getting that together with all of our hosts and experts here in the network. So college football is your thing. The NFL is your thing. Baseball going through. Of course, I do a show every day, shameless plug, with Jensen Lewis, 7 to 10 a.m. Eastern, right here on the network every day. So we got you covered pillar to post. But Rob, I do love breaking down the fights with you. I love what your model projections show week in and week out, and the way we kind of break it down and show it to maybe the new viewer, maybe the new fight fan out there that's looking to put down a couple dollars here and there as to why they should fight, why they should bet some of these fights. The Medic fight here in the main event against D-Rod, Daniel Rodriguez, massive underdog, as we talked about with Shane in the first segment on this fight. Hey, look, it's UFC Belgrade. He wanted to have a fight card in Serbia. And, sometimes we look at Max Holloway's been calling for it in Hawaii, and that doesn't happen. And yet we get Medic to headline a card here against Daniel Rodriguez. Sometimes there is pressure that comes along with that for looking as good as you've looked and now in front of your countrymen and women. I always talk about venues when you're handicapping MMA. And yeah, we do that in the NFL with home field and that sort of thing. But sometimes I do look at this and go, hey, it can be great. You go out there and show out. Other times there's a lot of other responsibilities. When you're the headliner and you're not used to being in this spot, is there any danger on the Medic side for being as big a favorite as he is with kind of that newfound responsibility of being the headliner at home?
That's a great point, because if you're going to ask for that main event, you better perform as a main event fighter. And I mean, he's no young pup. He's got 10 UFC fights under his belt, and kind of like you guys talked about, all 7 of his UFC victories by knockout. So the guy knows how to put on a show when necessary. Can he do that in front of the home crowd? Honestly, the biggest question mark around this whole thing, and let's get these graphics up here. I mean, it's the obvious one, right? It's Rodriguez's prison stint that just it kind of caught us all by surprise. But I mean, and look, we're not judging the guy. It was I guess he was driving down into TJ and got caught with some weed in the car. 8 months in a Mexican prison. Now that is not why I spent the weekend in Cabo, by the way. That was a choice, and it was leisure only. So I did not get caught with anything. I am free. Right. And I am back. But Daniel Rodriguez, I mean, 8 months, that's, for a 39-year-old athlete, that's a long time away from training, away from a proper diet, any conditioning. Yes. I mean, it's the big question mark. And then it's only been 3 months since he's been, released. It was back in April. So that's my biggest question mark. Now, the model definitely can't account for 8 months in a Mexican prison. I haven't done that math data yet. Maybe I'll work on that for next season. But the one big thing is his age, right? 39 years old against 33 years old. He does have a slight reach advantage, and their XR percentages are dang near identical. Both of them on winning streaks. And hey, the prison stint aside, Daniel Rodriguez is on a 3-fight winning streak, his last win against Kevin Holland. And I believe the story was that Kevin Holland paid for his bail because he wants a rematch against D-Rod, which that's a great story. In all fairness, if D-Rod pulls this upset, we got to make a movie out of this. We don't have good MMA movies. This has got to be a movie if D-Rod pulls this miracle upset here. But it's the striking where things start getting a little separated here, and where we really start seeing things flesh out. These guys spend most of their time at a distance. Daniel Rodriguez, 83%, Medic at 66%. This is hopefully the type of main event that we were hoping we would get last week. These are 2 strong strikers. Medic lands 5.11 significant strikes per minute with a 1.56 differential. So he's only absorbing 3.55. That's clean for a power striker, the type of power striker he is. 8 knockdowns along the way. Rodriguez, he's got some high volume, 7.20 significant strikes landed per minute.
Wow.
But his differential is only 1.89. So with that high volume, his absorption rate is 5.31. Now, he does also have some power, 7 knockdowns along the way, but against a guy like Medic, who is also hard to hit, that's going to be tricky. Both guys have been dropped before, though, so that is worth noting. And as I mentioned, the wrestling and grappling, I mean, we're talking a total of 3 takedowns between both men.
Wow.
I don't think that's what this is going to be about. We got 11% control rate and a 29% control rate. These guys are looking to just bang and bang quick. The model, it lands very cleanly on Uros Medic, but you do see that tier 5 thing, and that's kind of my flag of, hey, stop, pump the brakes. This isn't worth betting, especially at his odds at minus 360. But here's where I kind of got to separate the math from the fight. And we do get a 61% win probability here. That's where I got to separate the fight from the math, because the Daniel Rodriguez thing is my huge question mark. And I don't know if he's going to show up actually ready to put this fight on. I'm not questioning anything. I'm not questioning the fact that he accepted the fight or anything like that. But it's a tough thing to just bounce back in just 3 months at 39 years old and ready to go, ready to fight against a killer like Uros Medic. I haven't landed on a bet yet, but even though it's a tier 5, I kind of give an extra nod to Medic that, he wants this, and I believe he'll perform and on the stage he's asked for. And I want to find a way to place him in a bet. And I kind of like the conversation you and Shane were having on round 2 starting and finding that as a prop as props start to develop here in Vegas.
Minus $1.05 is what Shane found on that. I feel like that's a fair price. I lean towards the over at plus money at plus $1.50. But if you don't want to take that extra 2.5 minute risk, I can understand it and look for that first 5. As I mentioned with Shane. And look, we're kidding about the jails and all that. Like that would never happen in the United States, right? But that's what happens. We saw with Brittany Griner when she was in Russia, and we're like, my goodness, what are you doing holding one of our citizens? And that's what's happened out of D-Rod. And we're like, for us, that seems crazy and inhumane. For other countries, that's what he had to deal with for the last 9 months. It is crazy. And I talk about this all the time, Rob, when you're looking at certain fighters that we talk about, John Jones and some of the stuff that he's had between fights. Where's his head at? Rose Namajunas, sometimes the things she battles internally. And then we have to go wager on these fighters. I have no idea where D-Rod's head is right now, right? Like, you get out of a situation like that. I mean, it sounds scary to me. I'd be terrified if I was held in a jail cell in Tijuana for 9 months, and then I got to go back to UFC. I got to go to Belgrade and fight this killer.
It's not like he's still in the States, by the way. Which I hope
again.
I hope someone checked his bags for him. I hope he's not stuck in Belgrade.
Totally. Like, let's make sure everything's okay when we get there on the flight. But like, that's the point. Is like, all of these other factors for D-Rod that are really hard to handicap from a human perspective, and then quantify that into a numbers perspective and try to find out if these are numbers that we want to bet on with D-Rod. I don't know that I do. And the other thing, Rob, is it could be one of those deals where he's like, man, I'm just so relieved that I'm out of prison and now I get to go do what I've done my whole life, which is fight. That he does feel like that guy that's, unshackled, if you will, and says, man, I'm free again. And now let me go show this guy they should have kept me in prison, because now I'm going to go beat up this guy because I've had nothing else to do for the last 9 months but think about getting out of here and put a beating on somebody for what he's gone through. So it's really hard to quantify. And that's why I might look at it and say the other effect is it's a stalemate early. Because, man, I do have all this pent-up energy, but I got to pace myself here because I got 5 rounds to work if I need. Nobody believes this fight's going to go 5. But, again, to kind of pace yourself in the first minute or 2 minutes, and all of a sudden you're in the second half of that first round, and that can get you to that minus $1.05 price point of the fight at least getting to the second. That feels logical to me as I try to illogically figure out where he is mentally going into this fight.
Yeah, I love that price too, minus 105. I hope that's a similar price to what I get here in Vegas when that populates. Yeah, I think that's great from both angles too, right? The emotions of performing in front of your hometown, your home country, 5 minutes of just kind of, hey, don't dump the tank emotionally, and then equally from D-Rod of that excitement of like, I'm back, I'm free, I'm here. Let's pump the brakes for 5 minutes, and hey, that's all we got to sweat is 5 minutes, and you cash that minus 105. I like that. I think you said it best. It's the most logical way to look at this fight right now.
It is. It's the only way. I mean, that's what we try to do here in the show and figure out and try to uncover all angles. And it's hard because we're trying to get in somebody's head and figure out where they are. I do think it's something to pay attention to, one, the weigh-in, when they get up on their scales on Friday, and also listen to what D-Rod has to say and make sure he's in that proper headspace, because you can glean a little bit from those fighters. But the model still gets you on the Medic side. Would you look live, Rob, and say, okay, it started off slowly, but clearly he's fast? Let's just say, hypothetically, we assume he's going to have the striking advantage against D-Rod. The wrestling, as your numbers have already pointed out, is probably not going to come into effect here. So if D-Rod can't really slow him down, then Medic, even though he might not be happy about getting out of the first round because he does a lot of his work early, that still eventually we feel like he might be able to get D-Rod, and we're not going to get to the judges' scorecard.
Yeah, I don't hate the thought of a live number on Medic, especially if that first round looks like a stalemate, but to most of us knowing the situation and knowing the trained eye, hopefully you can tell, like, hey, I think Medic is kind of is just a second away from taking over, right? Yeah. And if you can see that in the first round, and hopefully it kind of looks like a stalemate and that number comes down a little bit, there could be a live spot there.
And again, adrenaline dump could be real in two different ways for both guys. One, as you mentioned, we talked about that hype of trying to put on the show. If he doesn't get him out of there in the first 5, does that become a real thing? Or if he's smarter about it and paces himself a little bit, then he can get D-Rod out of there. And again, conditioning for Daniel, we just don't know. I don't know what you can do in a prison for 9 months. I just do not know. So, this is short notice, right?
A lot of upper body.
A lot of upper body, a lot of push-ups. But again, you don't have a full camp to go over there to Belgrade and take on a guy like Uros Medic. So if D-Rod can't get it done early, that really could be an advantageous spot here to back the Medic side live if it gets out of that first round. It was an interesting conversation with Shane, too, about Jan Blachowicz, because there is a guy that when we look at resume, which I know you and I like to do, it's not comparable with a guy like Navajo Sterling. So Sterling, because he's so much younger and he can look so much more dynamic than Polish Power has looked here in recent times out, we can understand why he's the big favorite. But do you get back to that strength of schedule and say, man, maybe Blachowicz, the numbers show that this number is a little bit too wide?
So this is an interesting fight. You guys mentioned it's a last-minute replacement for Sterling. This is originally where last week's Guskov was supposed to fight, was here. So Roundtree's out, move Guskov forward. Sterling steps in on just a 6-week preparation. Now, I didn't know that stuff about his binger in
Japan.
In Japan, apparently, I did not know that part. If that's true, that definitely puts some reservation here. But man, I kind of forget that Father Time is catching up to Jan Blachowicz. I mean, 43 years old. I did not realize he is past that mark already. His recent run isn't exactly the most impressive either. Yes, they are losses to absolute killers of the light heavyweight division and absolute legends of the sport. But there's also 2 draws in there that are just kind of left bad taste in your mouth. There's not a lot of activity for the last few years. He's kind of been slowing down.
Yeah.
Is Navajo Sterling kind of too much for him at a 28-year-old just dude ready to run through the division? Potentially. Not saying he's there yet, but everything looks pretty even. The XR percentage for Sterling looks absolutely spectacular, obviously at 80%, but he's had a very short sample size for us to really measure here. So what he's done has looked great, but let's measure that against that strength of schedule kind of you talked about. Blachowicz is at 58%, so not the best, but that's against the absolute best the division has to offer. He was the absolute best for a short period as well. So the striking metrics, I mean, Sterling just has a lot to dish out. 6.15 significant strikes landed per minute, but the differential is absolutely absurd. 3.62. He's only absorbing 2.53. That is an insane number for a guy who dishes out that much. That could be a problem against a slowing down Jan Blachowicz, who, by the way, only lands 3.55 per minute and absorbs 3.14. So most likely Blachowicz is not winning a stand-up battle here. Now, Sterling doesn't have a ton of knockdowns in his very short career. He does have 2. Actually, that's a very good number considering how few fights he's actually had. But Blachowicz does have power. So if Blachowicz can fight a smart fight and use his full set of tools against probably what is, a quick to rush young guy here. I mean, taking a 6-week fight fight against the former light heavyweight champion is quite a proclamation to what your abilities can do. He only has 4 takedowns. He doesn't really wrestle, grapple.
No.
Blachowicz, hey, 69% takedown defense and a 33% control rate. It's not great, but I think he knows how to pace himself in the octagon. The model leans totally towards Sterling, and that's for clear reason. His numbers are just spectacular when you put them on paper, even in that short sample size, 75% win probability. But his odds at minus 330 just doesn't look appealing to me. And against a guy like Jan Blachowicz, I'm kind of reserved currently, and I have not placed a play. And this is kind of one of those cards where it's like, it kind of looks like a very chalky card, but you know there's going to be an upset somewhere, and I'm not sure where that is. Blachowicz could be that live spot.
I'll tell you this too, Rob. Like Blachowicz recently, when you watch him fight, it looks like he's fighting to get to the finish line, right? And he slows down, as you mentioned. Everybody's going to slow down. I'm going to slow down eventually. I don't know when, but eventually we're all going to slow down as we get a little bit older.
No time soon, baby.
No time soon. But it feels like that's the Jan Blachowicz we're seeing in real time in the octagon, like getting into those deeper rounds and surviving to get to the card. And then it doesn't always go his way when he gets to the decision, right? We can go back, obviously, to the Pereira fight as one of those examples where I thought he actually had done enough, but it just it wasn't overwhelming, right? He didn't give you that shock and awe and that feeling like he was finishing the fight in the best of shape. Now, if your model can start to model for guys coming off benders in Japan and guys coming off jail time in Tijuana, then that's really next level, right? So, like with Sterling, I'm looking at the KO prop, Rob. You can get about plus 250 on the Sterling side for a guy that's a massive favorite. And we know that that's what he wants to do. He wants to, you would think, pressure the old guy and make him quit, make him get out of there. And why do I want to be in here with this young guy that's beating me up for 15 minutes? Now, we think that Blachowicz can intelligently defend and get to the finish line, but not really win. Then you can get minus $1.05 on the young Sterling side here. So I'm going to be looking to the double chances. Not every book offers these, but I have found some. And what I would look to is I'd pay the freight, and it probably, if I'm looking at plus 250 for KO or minus $1.05 for a decision prop, you might be able to find minus $1.50 on a KO or decision prop on Sterling. That's where I'd want to go. I don't think submission's really in play here. We talked about the lack of a ground game here for Sterling. So, Rob, that's what I might have to wait and see. But again, people, shop around because we're trying to find those pathways to victory. To me, that double chance, and some of the books offer a double chance opportunity. That's where I'm going to look, Sterling by KO or decision. And if that thing is well under $2 at $1.50, that's where I'd be willing to lay that price point.
People wonder probably why I do this show sometimes, and it's because it's actually self-serving for me, because sometimes I can't come to a result, and it's really just to talk to you, Dave, and get to a result here and get to a bet, because I didn't even think about the double chance, and that's a great opportunity because you're right. Blachowicz is a tough guy to finish. Pereira couldn't do it, and Pereira finishes dang near everybody. And Sterling, you wonder, does he have the juice to really get it done quick? Or, do we see kind of like you said, where Blachowicz just kind of fights to get the fight over with? And yeah, if that number is, what we hope, around minus 150, something like that, double chance decision or TKO for Sterling, I love that.
Yeah, that's the only way that I could play it right now, too, because again, coming off a bender in Japan, those first 5 minutes could be very interesting. Let's put it that way. We've seen a number just go completely bizarre on the Mateus Rebecki, Kyle Pribolic fight. And right now, Kyle is over a $4 betting underdog against Rebecki. When you've run the numbers, Rob, should Mateus be this big a favorite?
So the issue is Kyle in this scenario. His numbers, so he's kind of had 2 UFC stints. He made his debut, I believe, in 21, went on a 2-fight losing streak, left the UFC, went 4-1 in other promotions, and then was welcomed back and is once again 0-2. So he's 0-4 in his UFC career.
Wow.
Now, once again, I always caveat this. My stats only reflect his 4 fights in the UFC, but those numbers aren't great. I mean, we're talking about 22% XR percentage for Kyle Pribolic. That is, I don't know if you know, it's not It's not he's not just losing close fights. That's the thing. He's not losing close fights. He's losing just altogether. He's losing almost every round he's been involved in. He just doesn't have anything to support him. Mateusz Rebecki, 64% XR percentage. That is solid. It's not great, but it's strong enough, especially against a guy like Kyle. In the striking, Mateusz, 4.94 significant strikes landed per minute, 0.47 differential. So you probably wish that was a little bit bigger.
Yeah.
But so he is absorbing 4.47. But the concern actually comes from Kyle's side. 3.25 significant strikes landed per minute, a negative 2.44. He is absorbing, 5.69 significant strikes per minute. Small sample size, only 4 fights, but that seems to be a trend. Apparently he likes to get hit, and a lot. Now he hasn't been knocked down, so he's got a tough chin. And I'm not saying Mateusz could be the guy to knock him down, but Mateusz does have 5 knockdowns along the way.
Oh,
now where things really start to look a different way too for Mateusz is the control rate. 67% control rate in clinch and ground time. He knows how to use the cage, use the ground. Kyle Prepolek, 8% control rate. That means he doesn't know how to use the clinch. He doesn't know how to use the ground. 0 takedowns attempted. Now, only 49% takedown accuracy for Mateusz, but he seems to be aggressive enough to where he uses it to his advantage. I believe about 3 takedowns attempted per 5 minutes. So running the numbers, it's very clear how this is going to go. You guys are starting to learn how the how the model sees these numbers. But it goes Mateusz, very heavy, 87% win probability, tier 1 favorite. My tier 1s perform very well in the model. His odds obviously are absolutely out of control. Still minus 550 here in Vegas, but you mentioned he's starting to balloon up even more and more around when you start shopping around. Now, I'm going to toss this to you because the way I was looking at this fight was actually in the total. I don't see Rebecki getting him out early, and the total is set at 1.5. Now, yesterday, and this kind of leans to believe that I was on the right side, and I wish Vegas had populated them yesterday. But yesterday, over 1.5 was minus 145. Today, it's minus 165.
Oh, boy.
What do you see as far as the total or just this fight in general?
Oh, man, I'm picking up what you're putting down, Rob. You better get that $1.66 because this thing might be $2 before we get to UFC Belgrade on Saturday morning, afternoon, depending on where you are, because that trend's going to continue. When you mention how tough Kyle is with the chin, even though he's not been good, and he didn't have a win in the UFC, he's been durable, right?
You can be bad and tough.
You can be bad and tough. We've seen that. We like that combination for overs.
Yes.
We absolutely like that combination for overs. I think it's a really smart way to play it. But you know what? I like when your numbers, even though he's a massive favorite here, Rebecki at minus 550, that your model says he's worthy of it. And again, I get it, people. You don't want to lay 550 in a fight. We're not saying that that's what you should do, but the numbers don't shy away from that. So that could be a parlay piece if you want it to be. But I do think if you're looking and you're going to get squeamish about laying 550 because upsets do happen, even though the model does not show that this is one of those you have to fear, look to that over. I think there's a much, much smarter way to play it here at $1.66 today. Not the best number because those numbers have already been eaten up and pushed this number up, but I'm picking up exactly what the model is putting down. And I'll tell you this, when I get that confirmation from your numbers, Rob, and I did like the Rebecki side, hated the number, but it tells me do not shy away that sometimes you can find value in a big favorite. And when you're not sweating this thing in that second round and he's just beating him up and Kyle's just standing there and you're hoping the ref doesn't stop it, you know you're on the right side of a 550 betting favorite. So he will be in some of my parlay pieces. And one of the guys very quickly I want to ask you about before we have time running out here in this edition, it's Ludovic Klein that I might be looking to parlay here because I looked at this number at about 232 in the Klein side here. And I love backing Klein. And boy, has he cashed tickets for me over and over again. Tafik Musayev is plus $1.95 in the Musayev side. But I'm like, what am I missing that Ludovic Klein is only a 238 betting favorite?
I don't know. I don't see it either. I mean, speaking of Mateusz Rebecki's great numbers, Ludovic Klein's last win is against Mateusz Rebecki.
Oh.
I mean, Ludovic Klein is great. I don't have numbers for this, mainly because from the Musayev side, he only has 2 UFC fights, so it doesn't qualify for my model yet. But I mean, Ludovic Klein's looked very good. I mean, even in losses against Mateusz Gamrot, he's fought back-to-back Mateusz's. I don't know how that happened. That was the confusing part when I just looked at his record. But Tafik Musayev, not to shy away from his record, he's 1-1. He was submitted in his UFC debut against Miktabek Oralbai. No shame there.
No shame in that.
That guy will submit anybody. His decision win over Ignacio Bahamondes probably looks better on paper than it does, in reality. You and I talked a little bit about in the break. Bahamondes maybe not as strong of a, the odds implied in the past for him. So that was a huge win for Musayev, and maybe that's what's kind of brought this number kind of even. But man, I think, speaking of parlay pieces, if you're looking for another leg, Ludwig Klein, I mean, he's a great fighter, and I think at that price, it's probably a great second leg as we continue to add to that parlay.
I think you might be seeing a two-leg parlay coming to our page here at VSiN in our Pro Picks page, because I'll be looking for Klein and Rebecki in a parlay. That absolutely will be on my card, a full unit play as well to knock that down. But I'm with you. I love the Klein side there. And again, I was like, well, what's the danger point? What am I missing? Why is he not as big a favorite as, say, Rebecki? I think you can find some value in some of these favorites this week over there at UFC Belgrade. Rob, great stuff again. And I know, by the way, we'll get into this in future shows. You've been UFC card collecting. I didn't know you could card collect out there in the UFC. We'll see what you got coming up in coming weeks, people. So, I see what you got back there. Hey, look at that. It's pretty badass. I like it.
It probably lost some value after his loss, but hey, from what I'm learning, this is okay.
It's still Ilya Taporia, not
card.
Too shabby, not too bad at all. Rob, great stuff, and we appreciate the model and being able to see that now on First Strike every week. I think it really lends more so people can see exactly what those numbers show each and every week that you have in your model. So, for Shane Thurston, for Rob Moreno, I'm Dave Ross. Cash some tickets. We'll see you next week right here. First Strike on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.